The big headline this morning, the United Kingdom has announced that starting the 11th of October, there will be no quarantine for Indian travellers to the United Kingdom if they are fully vaccinated with Covishield or any other UK-approved vaccine. The UK government had faced severe backlash and allegations of vaccine racism over its refusal to recognise visitors as vaccinated unless they received their shot in a handful of select countries. On the 1st of October, in response to the UK's quarantine rules for Indians and citizens of several nations, including those vaccinated with Covishield, India had in turn imposed a mandatory 10-day quarantine for British citizens, irrespective of their vaccination status. Well, it seems now the United Kingdom has lifted those curbs. This was announced by the British High Commissioner in India.
From Monday, the 11th of October, a traveller from India to the UK, double jabbed with Covishield or another vaccine recognised by the UK regulator, does not have to quarantine. So it'll be easier and cheaper to enter the UK. This is great news. We have been actually open for Indian travellers for months. We've been issuing thousands of visas to students, to business travellers, to tourists. And it's the product of excellent discussions with the Indian authorities.
Well, this is, of course, going to mean great relief for not just students from India, but business travelers, tourists, and so on, all of whom were having to quarantine for 10 days on reaching the United Kingdom and test several times as well. Meanwhile, India has decided to allow foreign tourists into the country, beginning with granting tourist visas to those travelling by chartered flights from the 15th of October. Now, foreign tourists who enter India by flights other than chartered aircraft will also be able to do so with effect from the 15th of November, but these will all be fresh tourist visas. No existing ones will be allowed. The Union Home Ministry making that announcement. Restrictions had been placed on visas in international travel since March 2020, the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. Well, these restrictions have been eased given the present overall situation. As we said, all visas granted to foreigners had been suspended last year. Hours after the Supreme Court asked the Uttar Pradesh government to file a status report on the Lakhimpur deaths, the UP police has said the Union Minister's son, Ashish Mishra, accused of murder in the farmer deaths at Lakhimpur Keri, has been summoned for questioning. Two people who were at the location of the incident have now been arrested. This is the first time the police has asked to question Ashish Mishra, the son of Junior Home Minister Ajay Mishra, even though an FIR was filed against him on Monday. The police pasted a notice outside the Union Minister's home summoning his son for questioning at 10 a.m. this morning. The two men who've been arrested have been identified as Lav Kush and Ashish Pandey. The two were in the jeep that ran over a journalist and farmers. 2 gun cartridges have been recovered from them. An 8-member UP police team is investigating the Lakhimpur Keri violence. The inaction so far has set off opposition allegations that the police are shielding the high-profile accused. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who visited families of victims in Lakhimpur Keri again, said families only want justice. She also asked the Prime Minister why hasn't the minister's son, why hasn't the minister been dismissed yet. She said the Prime Minister must carefully think about the kind of message that is being sent out.
सब परिवार यही कह रहे हैं कि उनको न्याय चाहिए और जितने भी परिवारों से मैं मिली हूँ ज्यादातर यही कह रहे हैं कि उनको न्याय चाहिए, कि जो गृह राज्य मंत्री हैं उनको इस्तीफा देना चाहिए और जो भी अपराधी हैं जिन्होंने ये सब किया उनको गिरफ्तार करना चाहिए। ये सब ऐसा ही कह रहे हैं।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी ये लखीमपुर का मामला सुना जाएगा जी। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने पूरा स्टेटस रिपोर्ट मांगा है, क्या कहेंगे सर?
जी मैम, मैं कहूंगी कि निष्पक्ष जांच होनी चाहिए। हमने पहले भी कहा है, एक निष्पक्ष जांच होनी चाहिए और वो निष्पक्ष जांच तब तक नहीं हो सकती जब तक ये मंत्री रहेंगे, क्योंकि ये गृह राज्य मंत्री हैं, ये सारे डिपार्टमेंट उनके अंडर आते हैं। तो मोदी जी को सोचना पड़ेगा कि वो इस देश को क्या संदेश भेज रहे हैं। क्या ये संदेश है उनका कि जो सत्ता में है, जो भाजपा में है, वो कुछ भी कर सकता है, वो लोगों की हत्या भी कर सकता है, उस पर कोई कानून लागू नहीं होगा? क्या ये संदेश है उनका?
The arrests and the summons to the minister's son came hours after the Supreme Court questioned how many people had been arrested and asked the state government to submit a status report, which it must do so this morning.
A new, longer video makes it clear Sunday's Lakhimpur protest was peaceful when it was hit from behind by an SUV belonging to the son of Union Minister Ajay Mishra. 4 farmers were killed, in which the minister's son Ashish has been named in the FIR. The protesters say he is the main accused, although he remains free, and both he and his father have denied his role.
In Delhi, the Supreme Court told the UP government to submit a status report by tomorrow and give details of who has been arrested. So far, the UP police has not arrested the Union Minister's son.
Now, after the Supreme Court's intervention, the police say they have summoned the minister's son. But despite this video, the FIR and the statements of eyewitnesses, the police say they are waiting for evidence to undergo forensic and other tests before arresting the main accused.
We have lodged an FIR. We have not gone into the background of whosoever the accused is.
So this time that is being taken is not jarring according to you? It doesn't strike you as something that would not happen if
Please help out. Please help me out. I have already issued a number. Please help me out. Provide me evidences. I will definitely go for it. Again and again you are calling for a murder case. You should be very well aware that an inquiry commission has also been established for the inquiry. We will have to proceed. We will have to gather. There are so many umpteen number of evidences. All have to be forensically examined.
2 cartridges have been recovered from the spot where the farmers and journalists were killed. Farmers have alleged the son of the union minister fired at the spot, but the police says no firearm injury has been detected in any of the 8 postmortems. 2 people were questioned today in the case, but no one has been arrested yet. The opposition leaders, who were finally allowed in Lakhimpur by the Yogi government, have demanded the BJP sack the union minister.
वो जिम्मेदारी से कैसे हट सकते हैं, उनको भी इस्तीफा देना चाहिए।
मैं जानना चाहती हूँ कि न्याय कैसे मिलेगा अगर वो मंत्री रहेंगे, उनके अंडर आता है ना ये सब। किसानों से तो जब तक वो रहेंगे, जब तक वो बर्खास्त नहीं होंगे, तो कौन एक निष्पक्ष जांच करेगा?
But the BJP appears to be backing Ajay Mishra, who was recently appointed with an eye on the vital UP Assembly elections. The minister is back at work as one of India's top law and order officials and was the chief guest at a meeting of prison officials in the capital, in his role as the junior minister for Home Affairs. The BSF, a paramilitary force under his ministry, was deployed to keep the media out.
After attending BPRD function for over an hour, Minister of State for Home Affairs Mr. Ajay Mishra left just now. He attended this conference on prisons and correctional service. He was here for over an hour. Interestingly, the media was invited here yesterday, and today they were barred from going inside. And look at the bandobast. Look at the bandobast, the BPRD, the Delhi police, even the BSF has been deputed along the gate just to keep the media out of the gates.
Hours after Varun Gandhi, the only high-profile BJP leader who has spoken out repeatedly against Sunday's violence, tweeted, calling the Sunday incident murder and calling for accountability, he was dropped from the party's National Executive Committee, along with his mother and fellow MP, Menika Gandhi. The BJP stand is not acceptable to families of the victims like Nakshatra Singh, the 65-year-old farmer who was hit first by the SUV owned by the minister's family.
कुछ संगठनों का नाम लेते हैं, आपने भी सुना होगा, बब्बर खालसा एक्सेट्रा। तो आप एक जनप्रतिनिधि के मुंह से जब ये बातें सुनते हैं तो आप क्या सोचते हैं इसके बारे में?
सर, कुल मिला के ना बेवकूफ़ी है जो ये सब फालतू की बातें करते हैं, किसी को किस चीज़ में जोड़ते हैं। खैर, कुल मिला के सर ये है कि हम बस सब न्याय चाहते हैं।
The UP police have just pasted this notice outside the residence of MOS home Ajay Mishra, basically summoning him for questioning at 10 a.m. on 8th of August, which is tomorrow. But the moot question remains that they still have not been able to trace the MP's son. They have still not made an arrest. And all of this appears to be just
attempts at whitewash. With camera person Vineet Parma, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Meanwhile, Navjot Singh Sidhu and other Punjab Congress leaders and ministers were allowed to head towards Lakhimpur Keri in Uttar Pradesh hours after they were detained at a police station in Saharanpur. Mr. Sidhu and 150 of his supporters were stopped by the UP police at the state's border with Haryana and then detained at the Sarsawan police station in Saharanpur before allowed to continue. Has the BJP sacked dissident voices from its national executive? There's been a comprehensive rejig and perhaps most importantly, Varun Gandhi, its Pilibhit MP and his mother Menka Gandhi, the BJP Sultanpur MP, are out of that list, as is Subramaniam Swamy, Rajya Sabha MP. Now, all three have been critical of the government's policies. Varun Gandhi most recently tweeting several successive tweets about the Lakhimpur violence and how evidence was being suppressed. He talked about how videos showed it was clear who had mowed down those farmers. So who's in? Well, Anurag Thakur, the INB Minister, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Aviation Minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, the Railway Minister and S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister, are all in the group, as is Meenakshi Lekhi, the Junior Minister for External Affairs. Well, Varun Gandhi brushed off his exclusion from the 80-member National Executive of the BJP. News agency ANI quoted him as saying, I did not even think I was on it. I have not attended a single NEC for the last 5 years. Aryan Khan, the son of megastar Shah Rukh Khan, arrested in a case involving a rave party on a cruise ship, will no longer be in the custody of the Drugs Control Agency. He is in judicial custody, however. Similar orders were given for 7 of the other accused, including his friend Arbaz Merchant. Of course, the important development is that bail applications of all 8 will be heard in just a short while from now. Meanwhile, Nationalist Congress Party leader Nawab Malik has said he will release evidence today to show that one of the people detained and later released by the Narcotics Control Bureau after the Mumbai drug bust was related to a BJP leader. The country's anti-drugs agency, he said, had been running a network in Mumbai for the last 1 year for only publicity. Now, Nawab Malik was speaking with my colleague Vishnu Shaw.
जज ने एक और चीज कहा, कई चीजों जज ने कहा. उन्होंने कहा, for police custody every detail needs to be pointed out and not the same and the same is not reflected in the remand report. In other words, sir, जो डिटेल्स पेश किए गए हैं, जो आर्ग्यूमेंट दिया गया है, जो केस एनसीबी ने बनाया है, वो इनकम्प्लीट है. तो इस इनकम्प्लीट स्टेट में आपके ख्याल से इस इन्वेस्टिगेशन जुडिशियल कस्टडी को एक्सटेंड करना चाहिए या नहीं?
जो अफसर है रेड को कंडक्ट कर रहा है, वो एक वेग स्टेटमेंट दे रहा है कि 8 से 10 लोग थे. या तो 8 लोग रहे होंगे या 10 लोग रहे होंगे. मैं आज दावे से कह रहा हूं कि 10 लोगों को डिटेन किया गया
जी.
2 लोगों को इन्होंने छोड़ा. एक जो सतीश मान सिंधे एक व्यक्ति का नाम ले रहा है कि जिसके बुलाने पे सारे लोग गए थे, उसे भी डिटेन किया गया था. उसके साथ एक भारतीय जनता पार्टी का नेता है, उसका एक इन लॉ है, उसे भी डिटेन किया गया था. इन 2 लोगों को छोड़ दिया गया. सारी पूरी कार्रवाई संदेह के घेरे में. मैं जिम्मेदारी से आपके चैनल पे ये दावा कर रहा हूं और कल मैं सारे जो टेप है वो मैं रिलीज करूंगा.
All right, we will take a very quick break at this point, but coming up later on in the show, it's the 89th Air Force Day Parade. We'll get you all the details about that, the first visuals coming in from Air Force Day. There will be many formations today to commemorate the 1971 war victory. We'll get you those details and much, much more. terror wave has gripped Kashmir. Targeted killings of civilians. 7 have been killed in 5 days. A Sikh school principal and a Hindu teacher was shot dead in the latest targeted killings. Just a day after a chemist and a labourer were killed, the Lieutenant Governor has promised strong action. Nazir Masoodi reports.
A school field turned into a killing ground on the outskirts of Srinagar. 3 terrorists came here, singled out 2 teachers and shot them. Both died on the spot as fear-stricken teachers cried in helplessness. The victims, Deepak Chand, a Hindu from Jammu, and Principal Supinder Kaur, were killed at Sangam village in Srinagar. The 46-year-old principal was a resident of Aluchi Bagh in Srinagar. She was working in the school for the last 3 years.
गनशॉट सुने तो हम मतलब शॉक हो गए कि हमने खिड़की से देखा तो यहाँ पे मतलब शोर सा थोड़ा बाहर निकले तो वहाँ पे मैडम दीपक सर टीचर एक हमारा वो गिरा हुआ था वहाँ पे.
There was an immediate fallout. The Sikh community has asked its government employees not to attend duties until the government takes steps to ensure their safety.
हमने तो आज से अपने प्रोटेस्ट के तौर पर अपने तमाम उन सिख नौजवानों से कहा है जो सरकारी दफ्तरों में हैं कि वो प्रोटेस्ट के तौर पर अभी लीव पर चले जाएं. हमारा प्रोटेस्ट ये है कि कोई बच्चा या कोई जो बेटी है वो अभी कहीं सरकारी दफ्तर में ना जाए.
There are some modules working on behalf of some agencies in Pakistan. They are working for TRF under the umbrella of TRF, and TRF, as you know, is being run from Karachi. People from the minority community also have a right to go for their occupation, for their professions wherever they are deployed by the government. They are being targeted.
The spate of murders has sent a chill across the valley. 7 civilians in 5 days.
मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि किसी को भी बख्शा नहीं जाएगा और बहुत जल्द हिसाब चुकता किया जाएगा.
On Saturday, 2 civilians, Majid Ahmed and Mohammad Shafi, were killed. On Tuesday, 3, including a prominent chemist ML Bindru in Srinagar, a Golgappa seller and non-local Virender Paswan, and a cab driver Mohammad Shafi, and now 2 teachers.
The question is why situation has reached such a pass. This is for the first time when teachers have been killed inside school because of their faith. The incidents over the last 1 week will have serious repercussions. With cameraman Amir in Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
A 3-storied building has collapsed in Bangaluru's Kasturi Nagar on Thursday. The second such incident in a fortnight. No injuries or casualties were reported, but residents were evacuated right in time after a tilt was noticed in the building early in the morning. Of the 8 flats in the building, just 3 were occupied. Locals were seen running away as the building came crashing down. Officials of the civic department and the fire department were on the spot taking stock. The big story right now, government sources have confirmed that there was a standoff between Indian and Chinese soldiers in the Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh last week, amidst reports that some Chinese soldiers may have been detained by the Indian army. Vishnu Shom joining us with the latest on that. Vishnu, what more do we know?
Well, for starters, I'd like to just be very clear that this was not a land grab attempt by the Chinese, which we've seen in other areas, not least in Arunachal Pradesh and in eastern Ladakh. What this was a patrol of the Chinese army, which had gotten into areas which India considers within our territory. And there was a face-off in the sense that Indian army soldiers saw them as well. And so there is a certain format. When this happens, they show their flags, we show our flags. We have banners which say return, they have banners which say return, and then the soldiers of either sides went back. So they weren't detained in that sense, firstly. Secondly, this is an area where there is a difference in perception of the line of actual control. And therefore this sort of thing happens particularly when patrols meet. However, it is important to report this because it's the second time in the last couple of months that there have been reports of a significant Chinese intrusion within territory India considers to be our own. But it also comes at a time when there are talks which are expected between India and China in eastern Ladakh. And therefore, there is a hope that the overall situation in Ladakh, is sorted out, because there is a land grab by the Chinese in areas such as Depsang and other areas where India wants them to go back. This, of course, is being reported several thousand kilometers away in Arunachal Pradesh, in the Bumla Pass area of the Tawang sector of Arunachal, in an area just across the line of actual control where the Chinese have built up villages and things like that. But in this particular instance, they came in to territory that we consider our own. But India also patrols, and this needs to be reiterated, up to areas that we can just consider our territory. And since there is a gap between the two, this sort of thing does happen and has been happening for several decades.
Vishnu, thanks very much indeed for joining us with those details. Hours after the Supreme Court asked the Uttar Pradesh government to file a status report on the Lakhimpur deaths, the UP police swung into action and said the union minister's son, Ashish Mishra, accused of murder in the farmer deaths at Lakhimpur Keri, had been summoned for questioning. 2 people who were at the location of the incident have also been arrested. This is the first time the police has asked to question Ashish Mishra, even though an FIR against him was filed on Monday. The police pasted this notice outside the union minister's home, summoning his son for questioning at 10 o'clock this morning. The 2 men who've been arrested have been identified as Lavkush and Ashish Pandey. The 2 were in the Thar that ran over a journalist and farmers. 2 gun cartridges have been recovered from them. An 8-member UP police team is investigating the Lakhimpur Keri violence. Well, the inaction so far has set off opposition allegations that the police are shielding the high-profile accused. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who visited families of victims again, said the families want justice. She also asked she asked the Prime Minister, why hasn't the minister whose son has been summoned been dismissed yet? She said the Prime Minister must carefully think about the kind of message that is being sent out.
सब परिवार यही कह रहे हैं कि उनको न्याय चाहिए, और जितने भी परिवारों से मैं मिली हूँ ज्यादातर यही कह रहे हैं कि उनको न्याय चाहिए, कि जो गृह राज्य मंत्री हैं उनको इस्तीफा देना चाहिए, और जो भी अपराधी हैं जिन्होंने ये सब किया उनको गिरफ्तार करना चाहिए. ये सब ऐसा ही कह रहे हैं.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी ये लखीमपुर का मामला सुना जाएगा. जी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने पूरा स्टेटस रिपोर्ट मांगा है, क्या कहेंगे सर?
जी मैम, मैं कहूंगी कि निष्पक्ष जांच होनी चाहिए. हमने पहले भी कहा है, एक निष्पक्ष जांच होनी चाहिए, और वो निष्पक्ष जांच तब तक नहीं हो सकती जब तक ये मंत्री रहेंगे, क्योंकि ये गृह राज्य मंत्री हैं. ये सारे डिपार्टमेंट उनके अंडर आते हैं. तो मोदी जी को सोचना पड़ेगा कि वो इस देश को क्या संदेश भेज रहे हैं. क्या ये संदेश है उनका कि जो सत्ता में है, जो भाजपा में है, वो कुछ भी कर सकता है, वो लोगों की हत्या भी कर सकता है, उस पर कोई कानून लागू नहीं होगा? क्या ये संदेश है उनका?
Meanwhile, Navjot Singh Sidhu and other Punjab Congress ministers and leaders were allowed to head towards Lakhimpur Keri hours after they were detained at a police station in Saharanpur on Thursday. Navjot Singh Sidhu and 150 of his supporters were stopped by the UP police initially at the state's border with Haryana and then detained at the Sarsawan police station in Saharanpur. Alok Pandey joining us for all the latest developments on that story. Alok, the UP government then expected to file its status report shortly in the Supreme Court?
Well, yes, they're going to do that. And I am standing right now at the reserve police lines here in Lakhimpur. And this is where they've called Ashish Mishra for questioning today. They pasted a notice outside the Lakhimpur city residence of Ajay Mishra, the MOS home, summoning him today at 10 a.m. Of course, it remains to be seen whether he's going to actually come here, because this is all very convenient, isn't it, Ankita? I mean, this is a murder accused. Or even assaulting someone. This is somebody who's accused of murder. But like we've been saying in the past 4 to 5 days, it seems that he's being treated with kid gloves by the police, because he, of course, is the son of a high-profile person here, the MP and union minister now. So it remains to be seen whether he's going to honor that questioning notice or not. If he does not honor it, then there is the possibility that he may be declared an absconder, but that is for later, I think, because the time is 10 a.m. There is a host of media here, but I don't see anybody else, a senior official here right now. So one waits to see what will happen.
You know, the opposition, particularly Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, has been raising the question about how justice can be seen to be done in this case as long as Ashish Mishra's father remains the Minister of State for Home, given that all law and order in effect reports into him. That's going to continue to be a big question no matter what happens today.
Well, yes, you are absolutely right. There are many questions around this entire incident that will continue to linger till there is some resolution to it. But then, you know, it depends on whether anyone actually wants a resolution or not. I mean, is the BJP government here, or is the political leadership of the BJP willing to concede that ground? I mean, it does seem, and I was watching our story yesterday and I noticed Neeta doing this PTC outside where Ajay Mishra had gone in Delhi as a chief guest, and they had even deployed the BSF there to keep the journalists out, and that is really something that tells you about what the government is thinking about the whole issue. So they are backing the Union Minister of State for Home, and at the moment I think it's very contradictory from the sentiment on the ground in terms of the fact that many here feel in Lakhimpur, especially the aggrieved side, they feel that, you know, like you said, till the time the minister is in place, is a minister, things will not really work out. But first of all, I think we wait to see whether Mr. Mishra makes an appearance here at the crime branch office in Lakhimpur.